My parents made everyone believe I was seriously sick for years, all just to make money and gain sympathy. Hey, before we move on to the video, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Thanks. I don't know how to even start this, except to say I'm not crazy. I never was. But for the first 18 years of my life, my parents made me believe I was. And everyone else believed them too. They told everyone I had a serious neurological condition when I was just a kid. The name of the disorder kept changing. Sometimes it was schizoaffective disorder, sometimes intermittent explosive disorder, sometimes it was just dangerous and unpredictable. But they always said it with such heavy sadness and forced love, like they were heroes for putting up with me. People praised them constantly. Brave, selfless, saints. I didn't find out until I was 19 that I'd been perfectly fine all along. No diagnosis, no disorder. No actual doctor had ever confirmed any of it. I'll get to that, but I need to start earlier, before I even knew what they were doing. I was 7 when the problem started. I had a meltdown in class because a teacher publicly accused me of lying about finishing my homework. I didn't lie, she lost it. But I remember yelling, crying, refusing to sit down. I got sent home. That night, my mom sat me on the couch and told me I'd scared people. She said my brain didn't work like other kids. She told me I might hurt someone without meaning to. She said it was okay, that she and Dad would protect me, but that I had to promise not to fight them on anything. After that, everything changed. I was pulled from school the next month. My parents told everyone I had a breakdown and needed special education. I was confused, but they made it sound like a good thing. I got to stay home. They called it homeschooling, but there was no structure, no math, no reading. I just sat in my room, bored out of my mind, doing puzzles and coloring books well below my age level. I'd ask to go back to school and they'd say, "You know you can't handle that, sweetie." They started giving me pills at breakfast. I didn't even know what they were. They said it was to help calm the noise in my head. I didn't have noise in my head. I wasn't hearing voices. I wasn't seeing things. I was a bored, frustrated kid locked in the house and treated like a ticking bomb. Anytime I got angry, over anything, even a broken toy, my mom would whisper, "See? This is what I'm talking about." She kept a notebook. She'd write down dates, times, made-up incidents. I only found it years later. Pages and pages of violent episodes I didn't remember. Most of them never happened. They didn't let me use the internet. They said I was too unstable and could be triggered by what I saw. I didn't have a phone until I was almost 17, and even then it was a brick with no camera or browser. My mom would search my room every few days and read my journals. If I wrote anything she didn't like, I'd find the page ripped out or corrected in red pen. One time I wrote, "I don't think I'm sick," and I got locked in my room for 2 days with nothing but a bottle of water and my mattress. It wasn't just my parents, either. They got extended family to believe it. My aunts, uncles, cousins, none of them visited. I'd ask why and be told, "They're scared of you, honey. But it's not your fault. You just have a scary condition." I wasn't allowed to be around other kids. No birthdays, no holidays with family. I was the boy behind the curtain, the scary secret. I remember my dad taking me to a clinic once. I thought maybe I'd finally see a real doctor. But the place was weird. No receptionist. Just a woman in her 30s in a house-like building who talked to me for 10 minutes about my favorite colors, then said I was emotionally volatile. I didn't even know what that meant. Years later, I realized the woman wasn't even licensed. She was just someone they knew. I was so sedated all the time I could barely think straight. If I ever argued or got upset, they'd up the dose. At one point, I was taking 4 different pills. I still don't know what they were. I slept 12 hours a day. My memory was foggy. I gained a ton of weight. My skin got blotchy. My hair thinned. I looked sick. That was the point. Meanwhile, my mom ran a blog. She'd post updates about my condition. Sad photos of me looking confused or half asleep. She'd write about the small wins when I smiled, or said a full sentence, or didn't lash out that week. People commented things like, "You're a hero, you're an angel, I don't know how you do it." Strangers sent money. Local churches donated food. One year we got a free family vacation through some organization that helps families with special needs kids. I wasn't allowed to leave the hotel room. They told the group I had psychotic breaks triggered by new environments. I didn't know any of this at the time. I just thought I was broken. By 17, I started having doubts. I was more lucid, more aware. I noticed how other people's parents treated them, even just from overhearing neighbors. I'd never been hugged without it feeling performative. Never heard, "I'm proud of you," unless someone was watching. One day, I caught a neighbor's Wi-Fi signal. It was unsecured. I found an old tablet in a drawer, probably left there and forgotten. I used it to go online in the middle of the night while everyone slept. I searched my supposed diagnoses. I read forums. I looked up symptoms. And that's when things started falling apart. I realized none of the diagnoses fit. Not even close. I didn't have hallucinations. I didn't have mood swings. I wasn't paranoid. I was anxious, sure, but I was living like a prisoner. Who wouldn't be anxious? I didn't say anything. Not at first. I needed more time. More proof. I started secretly logging everything, how they treated me, what pills they gave me, what they said to other people. I created an anonymous account on a support forum and posted my story in pieces. People responded in disbelief. More than one told me this was abuse. Some said it bordered on Munchausen by proxy. At 18, I made my first real plan. And that's where I'll pick up next, the escape, and everything that came after. The morning of my 18th birthday, my parents made me pancakes and gave me a card that read, "We're so proud of how far you've come." It was disgusting. I smiled, said thank you, and choked down the food while my mom watched me swallow every bite of the pills she handed me. She always made sure I took them in front of her, as if I was some kind of addict she couldn't trust. That night, I didn't take the second dose. I hid it under my tongue and spit it into a tissue when I got back to my room. I was starting to get used to the fog lifting. My head was still a mess, but for the first time, I was thinking clearly. And what I realized scared the hell out of me. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I liked, what I wanted to do with my life, or even what kind of person I was outside of their sick little narrative. I was just a shell, something they molded into a tragedy for Sympathy. They had stolen my identity before I ever had a chance to form one. The tablet I'd found was my lifeline. I only used it at night, under the covers, and I never connected to any accounts that could be traced. I found online forums for adult survivors of medical abuse and parental gaslighting. I read every post I could find. I posted my story in chunks, anonymized, broken into vague fragments so no one could identify me. People responded with horror. Over and over again, I read the same word, escape. There was one woman in particular, I'll call her Jessa, who reached out and offered to help. She said she'd gone through something similar in her teens. Her parents claimed she had epilepsy, kept her on seizure meds, and convinced her she had permanent brain damage. She got out at 17 and was now in her 30s with a law degree and a career in advocacy for abused teens. She didn't push me, didn't ask for personal details. But she said one thing that stuck with me: if you don't leave now, they will keep you locked in that cage forever. Even if it's a pretty cage. Even if it's wrapped in birthday cards and pancakes. So I started planning. I waited 3 weeks. I stopped taking the meds completely, but pretended I was still on them. The first few days were brutal. I had cold sweats, nausea, tremors. My body had been hooked on that crap for years. But I pushed through. I told my parents I was just tired, that the medication made me feel sleepy. They were thrilled. "That means it's working," my mom said. I packed a bag and hid it behind a loose panel in the back of my closet. Just some clothes, the tablet, some snacks, and my birth certificate. I'd found it buried in a filing cabinet in the garage, stuck behind tax forms and medical files. I didn't have a state ID. They'd never let me get one. But I figured the birth certificate was a start. The hardest part was pretending nothing was wrong. Every meal, every chore, every sickly sweet, "We love you so much," made me want to scream. But I smiled, nodded, said thank you. I learned early that looking stable meant not showing any emotions they didn't pre-approve. The escape happened on a rainy Tuesday night. My parents were watching TV in their room. I'd already used the Wi-Fi to message Jessa the night before. She found someone local, a volunteer in her network, who could pick me up and give me a place to stay for a few days. I didn't even know what the guy looked like, just that he drove a blue Honda Civic and would be parked 2 streets over at exactly 11 p.m. At 10:45, I slipped out the back door barefoot, carrying my shoes and my bag. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. Every shadow looked like my dad. Every creaking branch felt like a scream. I ran. The car was waiting, engine idling, headlights off. The guy, mid-40s, quiet, serious, just nodded and opened the passenger door. I didn't say a word. I got in, and we drove off. I never looked back. That night, I slept on a couch in a stranger's apartment. It was the first time in years that I hadn't taken a pill before bed. I didn't sleep much. Every noise made me jump. I kept expecting to hear the front door crash open and my parents' voices screaming my name. But nothing happened. The next morning, the volunteer, his name was Mark, took me to get a free mental health evaluation at a clinic Jessa recommended. Real doctors this time. Real credentials on the walls. Real questions. No loaded language. No assumption that I was dangerous. Just curiosity and care and a lot of patience. After an hour of evaluation, the therapist, Dr. Langley, sat back in her chair and said, "I don't see any signs of schizophrenia, psychosis, or emotional instability. Have you ever been formally diagnosed by a psychiatrist?" I told her no. "Then what you've been through," she said, "is not treatment. It's abuse." I broke down right there in her office. Ugly, heaving sobs. Not because I was shocked, but because hearing someone say it out loud made it real. For the first time, I had someone in authority confirm what I'd feared for years. I wasn't sick. I wasn't broken. I was a victim. Over the next few days, I stayed with Mark while Jessa helped me connect with a legal aid clinic that specialized in abuse cases. They were cautious at first. No one wanted to make false accusations, but once I showed them my mom's blog, the screenshots of her posts, the pictures, the list of medications, and the forged documents I'd found, they were horrified. One lawyer told me, "This is going to explode when the right people see it." It wasn't just emotional abuse. It was fraud. Government fraud. Medical fraud. Child endangerment. And they were going to investigate every last detail. Jessa arranged for me to stay in a transitional housing program for abuse survivors. It wasn't perfect, but it was stable. I got a real ID, applied for a GED program, and started therapy twice a week. Slowly, I started feeling like a person. I started existing outside of them. Meanwhile, my parents had no idea where I was. I didn't answer their calls. I didn't read their texts. They even filed a missing persons report. The police tracked me down through the housing program, but when they saw the legal case unfolding, they backed off fast. Once the clinic shared their report with the authorities, everything changed. Child Protective Services opened a retroactive investigation. A federal agency started looking into the benefits they'd claimed over the years. I learned they had received over $80,000 in government aid, donations, and church grants, all based on lies. And suddenly, the people who used to call them heroes weren't answering their messages anymore. They were about to lose everything. And I was just getting started. 6 weeks after I escaped, I got the first letter from my mother. It was handwritten in her neat, perfect cursive, like a PDA thank you note. She opened with, "We understand that you're struggling right now, and we want you to come home. We forgive you. Forgive me." They forgave me. I showed the letter to my therapist. She just sighed and said, "That's not forgiveness. That's control in a softer costume." I didn't respond. I tore the letter up and threw it away. 2 days later, another one came. Then another. Then a birthday card, 2 months late, that said, "We still love you. Come home before it's too late." Too late for what? Too late for them to stop the investigation? Because that part had officially begun. The legal aid group had built a case that was so airtight even my therapist was stunned. They pulled financial records, interviewed neighbors, subpoenaed my pediatrician, who, as it turned out, had retired 10 years ago and never diagnosed me with anything beyond mild anxiety. Every other diagnosis came from consultants or off-the-books evaluations. Meaning, my parents made them up or paid someone to fake it. My mother had created a full fictional medical history. She'd forged prescriptions. She'd administered medication to a minor without medical approval. She'd falsified school records. And my father? He'd co-signed every lie. He'd helped fabricate the blog, handle the money, and present the image of the long-suffering, faithful caregiver. It was a performance, a business model, and they were so good at it. A team of pro bono lawyers worked with a district attorney to push charges. At the same time, they helped me file for legal emancipation retroactively, so I could cut all ties. That's when things got ugly. Once the investigation started gaining traction, my parents switched tactics. The next message I got wasn't a birthday card. It was an email. Long, rambling. Angry. They accused me of being ungrateful, vindictive, unstable. They said I was spiraling, that I was manipulated by outsiders, that I was too mentally ill to make my own decisions. My father wrote, You're burning your own family down to feel important. My mother added, you're sick and don't even know it. Come home before they ruin your life. That was the last time I read anything they sent. Instead, I watched their world crumble from the outside. The blog went dark first. I don't know if they deleted it or if the hosting service took it down, but one day it just vanished. I'd already archived everything with screenshots, timestamps, and public comments, so it didn't matter. I had evidence, and so did the people investigating them. Churches pulled their support. People who once called them brave started going silent. One former friend of theirs messaged me anonymously on the forum where I'd originally posted my story, not knowing it was me, and said, "You know, I always wondered if something was off about them. Their son always looked sedated in every photo." Then came the public hearing. It wasn't criminal court yet, but it was part of the child endangerment and fraud investigation. I wasn't required to be there, but I went. Not out of obligation, but because I wanted to see their faces when they realized I was never going back. I sat in the back, dressed clean and sharp, hair combed, eyes clear. No fog, no pills, just me. My parents entered the room and did a full double take when they saw me. My mom whispered something to my dad, and he looked like he wanted to walk right out the door. But they stayed. When the investigators began reading the evidence, forged documents, financial fraud, false claims about medications, my parents just sat there, silent. My mom kept dabbing at her eyes with a tissue like she was at a funeral. My dad folded his arms and stared at the table, jaw clenched. Not once did they look at me. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't hold back. I told them about the isolation, about the pills, about the notebooks full of fake outbursts, about the panic attacks, the sedation, the erased identity. I told them about the birthday parties I wasn't allowed to attend, the family members who never visited, the years of being told I was dangerous when I was just sad and bored and alone. And when I was done, I said, "Whatever happens next, I hope you feel even a fraction of the helplessness you forced on me every single day of my childhood." Then I walked out. They never said a word. The fallout took time. Legal systems moved slowly. But it came. They lost access to the aid programs. They were banned from fostering or adopting, not that they ever had plans to, but the point was made. The DA didn't press full criminal charges, they wanted to, but apparently there wasn't enough for jail time. But my parents were hit with thousands in fines and a formal declaration of child endangerment. Their names went into a national registry. Their reputations were finished. And me? I got my GED. I applied to community college. I got a part-time job as a library assistant. I moved into a shared apartment with 2 other guys from the transitional program. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I learned how to cook for myself. I bought my own clothes. I paid my bills on time. I walked outside and breathed air that didn't smell like stale medication and carpet cleaner. I was a person. For the first time. I changed my last name. Legally. Completely. No trace of them. A few months later, I got one last message. Not from my parents, but from an old family friend. Someone I barely remembered. It just said, "Your mom's been asking around about you. She says she wants to reconcile." I didn't respond. But if she ever manages to find me, and I doubt she will, I'll say what I should have said a long time ago. I was never the broken one. You were. A year passed. 12 months of rebuilding. 12 months of waking up without pills, without checklists taped to the wall, without being told who I was supposed to be. I kept expecting the trauma to melt away like frost in sunlight. But it didn't. It stayed. It sat in the corner of every room, quiet but present, like the memory of a fire in a rebuilt house. But the difference was this: it didn't own me anymore. I had a name of my own. A rented room. A bank account with money I'd earned. I passed my first college writing course with a B+, and my professor said I had a natural voice, sharp, dry, honest. I started journaling every day. Some of it hurt. Some of it healed. But it was mine, and nobody could twist it into pity posts or GoFundMe campaigns. The people I lived with didn't know much. I told them the basics: abusive family, legal battle, starting over. They didn't ask questions. We made each other dinner sometimes and split rent and watched dumb shows on streaming. That's all I ever wanted, to just be without being studied. Jessa kept in touch. She became something like a big sister. She invited me to speak at a small panel for survivors of medical abuse. I didn't want to at first. I wasn't ready to be someone's cautionary tale. But she said, "It's not about being a victim. It's about showing people that survival is possible, that freedom is real. So I spoke. Quietly, clearly. And afterward, someone in the audience cried and hugged me. Another person asked how I'd known to trust myself, to believe that I wasn't crazy. I didn't have a good answer. I just said, because deep down, I knew I didn't feel broken. I felt trapped. There's a difference. Then, one afternoon, I got an email from a name I hadn't seen in years, Aunt Rachel. She was my mom's younger sister. I barely remembered her. She'd moved across the country when I was a kid, and we'd stopped seeing her altogether. But the email was short, polite, and cut through every fake excuse I'd heard growing up. I'm not here to pressure you. I just want to say I'm sorry I didn't look closer. I used to think something was off, but I believed your mother because she was convincing. You don't have to reply. I just wanted you to know. I believe you. And if you ever want to talk, I'm here. I sat there staring at the screen for a long time. Then I wrote back. Just 3 words. Thank you. Maybe. That small message opened something in me. I started remembering things that didn't hurt, good things. Before the meds. Before the blog. My mom hadn't always been like that. Or maybe she had, but hid it well. I remembered a day when Aunt Rachel had taken me to the zoo. I remembered laughing. I remembered feeling warm. It wasn't redemption, but it was something. Then came the final confrontation. It happened completely by accident. I was walking out of a grocery store near campus when I heard someone call my birth name, the one I hadn't used in over a year. I froze. It was her. My mother. She looked thinner. Hollow. Her hair was brittle, her eyes puffy. She looked like someone whose life had completely come apart, and I realized with a strange sense of detachment that I didn't feel bad about that. She came toward me like I was a lost puppy. Oh my God, it's really you, she said. I've been trying to find you for months. I prayed every night that you were okay. Are you okay? Please tell me you're okay. I didn't speak. I didn't move. She kept going. I just want to explain. I never meant to hurt you. I was trying to protect you. You needed help. You weren't like other kids, and I was trying to do what was best. You don't understand what it was like, watching you fade away and not knowing how to reach you. That was her version. Still, after everything, still the hero in her own story, still casting herself as the savior. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. I'm not him anymore, I said. You don't get to talk to me like you still know me. Her face crumpled. Tears started. I'm your mother, she said, like that word still held power. No, I said quietly. You were my warden. I left her standing in the parking lot, crying into her hands. I didn't turn around. That night, I told Jessa what had happened. She didn't say much, just sent me a message. Closure doesn't always come the way you expect, but when it comes, you feel it in your spine. She was right. I slept better that night than I had in years. Months passed. I moved to a bigger apartment. I started writing for a student publication. One of my essays about medical gaslighting and institutional betrayal went semi-viral online. People reached out to me from all over. Some just to say they believed me. Some because they were going through the same thing and didn't know how to escape. And suddenly, I wasn't a story someone else wrote. I was the author. I was the ending. Some people say you can't really come back from that kind of childhood. That once someone burns your sense of self to the ground, you're just ashes forever. But I don't believe that. I think you build a new self from scratch, brick by brick, word by word, choice by choice. And if you're lucky, if you're patient, one day you'll look in the mirror and see someone you've never met before, but somehow recognize. Someone alive, someone whole, someone free. And the best part? They don't look like her son. They just look like me. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button.